Morning glory to Grace, America. Hugh Hewitt in Studio West. Special treat for you people. I will do the news. I will cover everything. Like, I've got lots of guests coming up today, including John Ashbrook of the Ruthless Podcast and Congressman Van Orden and Senator Daines. I've got Dr. Arnn and Akash Chougule and David Bonson. I've got Josh Kroshauer, Phil Baboni, and Jim Talent. I got a lot of guests today. We'll cover everything. Don't go anywhere. But I wanted Dr. Larry Arnn to come on at the beginning of a Thursday show, because for many years now, he's been the last radio hour of the week, and he's continuing as the last radio hour of the week. That now means the 5 to 6 hour, coast to coast, East Coast, 2 to 3 West Coast. And so new people are finding Dr. Arnn. And I just want to make sure this hour knows about that hour tomorrow. Dr. Arnn, hello. Thank you for joining me early. What should people know about Hillsdale College and what we do every week?
Hillsdale College was born before the Civil War and helped to save the Union in the Civil War. And it stands for High Learning, the Principles of America, Freedom, and Good Character. And we don't take any money from the government, nor want any. And you can study there for free if you want to. We have more than 4.5 million online students. And it's a place of high and intense learning. And the kids work till they drop. And then we kick them up and make them work some more.
Hillsdale.edu. And I want to make sure people understand, especially parents and kids who are driving home from school right now, and there are a lot of them. It's hard to get into Hillsdale. So I don't want to create any illusions that you're going to get into Hillsdale unless you have worked really hard and can prove it. But they don't count by race, and they don't count by gender. Now I wanted to make that clear, Dr. Arnn. Hillsdale's hard to get into, and it's getting harder, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I regret that in a way. Of course, the way you get in, by the way, is, it's not hard to tell if somebody's smart enough to go to a difficult college. You know, a lot of people are. One of the things is, how bad do you want to? Because it's a lot of work, and it will change you if you do it. And you'll be obliged to sign the honor code and help everybody else learn too. Be friends with everybody. And so there's it's a tight world that radiates all over the world. And so you can participate in it. Everybody can. You're invited.
Now, the two things I want to cover are the courses that are available to the public at hillsdale.edu. And this is not an ad, by the way. I just asked Larry to do this. And tomorrow we're going to talk about the first 3 weeks of Donald Trump's domestic policy. And then the following week, we're going to talk about the first 4 weeks of Donald Trump's national security policy. And then we're going to start on My Early Life by Winston Churchill. A word about the Hillsdale Dialogues, which we've been doing for years as the last radio and now video hour of the week. Why do you do that with me, Dr. Arnn? I love doing it, but I got to be there anyway. I love doing it, but why do you do it?
Well, there are two reasons. One is because you have been a nuisance in my life now for 40 years. And it was actually your idea. And I thought it was silly when you first said it. But then that comes to the second reason, and that is, of course, the reason we're friends is we both love to talk about these things. And you know, there's a claim in the classics that everybody loves to talk about these things. We're made to understand things like the things we talk about. And so it's a very fun thing to do. And it's, as I say, a nuisance and a great nuisance.
A nuisance, and I may have had the idea, but I think the person who's responsible for it is named Penelope. I'm not sure about that, but I kind of suspect that she had something to do with this. But we do every book. We began, I think, with the book of Job. Then we did the Iliad and the... I mean, we've been doing this for years and years and years, and there's an unlimited number of things to talk about. But we have particularly spent our time on Churchill. And Dr. Arnn always objects when I call him the equal of any Churchill scholar on the planet, but it's true. Why do we spend so much time on Churchill and Lincoln?
Well, Churchill is I've spent a lot of time on Churchill myself, but Churchill is, a phenomenon. A great statesman, writes Aristotle, is the way you can learn to make practical choices. Because practical choices, we make them all the time, and they depend on eternal things, and they depend on the circumstances you're in at the moment. So do that. And then Churchill is the greatest statesman, in my opinion, of our time, the time of mass war, of bureaucratic government, of totalitarian government, all those things that have developed since Abraham Lincoln died. Churchill dealt with those things, and you can learn a lot about them and how to deal with them from him. And so it's
And
very
in the
valuable.
dialogues, we talk about them as opposed to you're listening to lectures. I do want to recommend to everyone, if you go to hillsdale.edu, my favorite course is the one that Dr. Arnn taught on the totalitarian novels. Use that as an example, Dr. Arnn. There's the framing, there's the founding, there's the progressive era. There are lots of courses over there. Talk about that one.
Well, that one is, they're chilling. So if you read book 5, the last 3 chapters of book 5 of Aristotle's Politics, he describes how tyrannies survive. Tyranny is the worst form of government. It's the rule of one person in his own interest. And the way they survive, writes Aristotle, because people don't like it and they're always looking for a way to get rid of it, is they have to demean us. They have to prevent us being friends with each other. They have to prevent high thoughts. They don't like God. They have to make us lower beings so we can submit. Well, then that's there, and that's very chilling. But now comes along modern science, and we get tyranny armed with modern science. The word for it is totalitarianism. And there are these great novels that describe what that's like, and it's the most evil conceivable human organization. 1984 is the starkest of them, that novel. Darkness at Noon is a dialogue of some Bolsheviks, the guys who made the Soviet Union. Brave New World is about a scientific, familyless, simply despotized but pleasure-driven society. And then there's That Hideous Strength by C.S. Lewis. And those are all great novels, and they're around the same theme. What can people harness modern science to demean and diminish and despotize each other? And that can go very far. And
that's why, if anyone is listening for the first time to Dr. Arnn, because we've hit your sweet spot, and it's when you're on Salem News Channel or you're listening to one of my radio affiliates, and you've never heard us talking before because this is your sweet spots when you're tuned in, do go to hillsdale.edu and go find the free course on the totalitarian novels because it's fabulous. Dr. Arnn, tomorrow we're going to do in depth in the 3rd hour on Friday's show, the Trumpian start on domestic side, the next week, the national security. Give us a teaser. What are your first thoughts on Donald Trump's first 3 weeks?
Well, in America, and since 1930, we have implemented a new kind of government grafted onto the old kind. We have been a house divided, and the old kind is constitutional rule, and the new kind is the administrative state or the bureaucracy. This is the most intense fight over which is to prevail, and it's going to be a fierce fight, and it's being launched and prosecuted by somebody who's very determined. And so it's a very hopeful thing, and it's a wonderful thing to watch and try to understand, because we're all citizens. We should try to take part in it. So yeah, it's early days, right? And I'm not as quick as Donald Trump to use superlatives, but if we sort this out, it will be like the achievement of the Revolutionary War and the Civil War generations.
It's been almost 10 years since Donald Trump came down the escalator in 2015. And I've told everyone, I want to at least stay around to the end of the story, which is in 47 months. I have no idea where we're going to end up. But you like to say fundamental things are afoot. You still say that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And and the point is, they're the daily headlines right now. And C.S. Lewis writes, you don't know how strong something is until you push against it. Well, now we're pushing against this thing, and we are going to find out how strong it is. And my own view is this whole administrative bureaucratic apparatus is driving our country to bankruptcy and also failing to defend us and interfering with our lives. It doesn't work. It's got to be beatable. And so we're going to find out.
More on that tomorrow. In the meantime, my introduction. Thank you, Dr. Arnn, for the special teaser for tomorrow. Last hour tomorrow will be a longer discussion about domestic policy. The Hillsdale Dialogue is every Friday in the last hour of the program and has been for years. They're all collected at Hugh for Hillsdale.com.